Life Unscripted with Kevin Shook.
Okay, so episode one. Life Unscripted.
Life Unscripted.
And that means unplanned.
Unplanned.
Although we did plan the podcast.
A little bit.
We can't really plan life. Going by a script is almost impossible. So
that's a lesson I wish I learned a long time ago.
Well, I think, all of us, because whether it's society pressures us into thinking we need to live a script or we need to live a narrative or whatnot, I feel like the pressure of that just causes so much stress and anxiety because what we expect life to be based on the scripts, and then it doesn't turn out that way.
Right.
Here we are, just a couple guys on a podcast.
There we go.
We're not doctors. We're not lawyers.
No. Not at all.
So thanks for being on episode one of Adetokunbo.
Hey, thank you for having me, Kevin. Appreciate it.
So Adetokunbo is a published author. He has multiple books. Are we up to like 6 books now?
Well, we're trying to get there. So
tell me your first book.
My very, very first book is time management. It's called The College Hustle Time Management. So
thanks for being on time today.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're all welcome.
I know it was last notice, but so when did you write that book?
Man, I wrote that probably 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been some time. And then, got a little nervous about writing the next thing, took it too seriously. And so it took a long time from getting back to it. Funny thing you asked, and I'll be real quick about this, but I was just looking at some of the reviews on there. I'm like, man, people have used this in their classrooms and thought it was a great piece of material.
Your first book?
My first book, which was horribly edited by the way. Womp, right? So, but that's something I noticed. And, I kind of was like, get back in writing. And I look at reviews like people use this. They thought this was a great source.
Nice.
Don't stop. Don't hold yourself back.
That's good, especially like on a bad day.
Oh, yeah.
You get on there and just, you actually read my shit.
Yeah, people read it in classrooms.
And applied it.
Yeah.
So it did get used in adult education?
Yep, it got used both in high school, I think high school, middle school, because I remember one of my former instructors, one of my math instructors reached out to me. He was a great guy, always helped me in school, but he reached out to me, said he used it in class. And then one from an instructor from Ivy Tech reached out to, they actually left a review. So it's like, awesome.
So when we say they used it, did they use it as like part of assignments?
They used it as their material. So I'm not exactly how to incorporate it in, but it was one of those things that was suggested to their students. Okay. So yeah.
And then the rest of your books?
The rest of them are in the kind of fantasy world thing.
Yeah. So I admire you for being able to write and publish, but I can't, it's way beyond me. But I was never like a Harry Potter type person or nothing.
Well, me neither. They don't have magic in the hood.
But it's not magic in the hood. It says nothing about the hood in these new books.
No.
And that's what, man, I wish you would write about some of that growing up in Philly.
Has
something held you back from writing nonfiction growing up in Philadelphia and everything?
Has it held me back? No,
because I would love, because you've shared stuff with me.
Yeah.
And man, I would love to know more. And you piece together your childhood in a book, and then that would be huge.
I'm going to consider that a little bit more because you're not the only person who've mentioned that. And my biggest thing is I just wanted to be as positive as I can be because there's some not so. Well, yeah,
there's some ups and downs.
And But I think my experience in Philadelphia definitely influences my writing, because it's things, like I'm writing in fantasy world, things are realistic and people have to deal with real situations. So even though we're having fun and you're a fun moments, it's still very real.
There's some grit.
Yeah.
And Life Unscripted. That's kind of like, I think it'd be really cool to hear the bads as well as the goods so people understand, in those situations they might be in, that there's still hope that they could move to Richmond and go to Earlham and still become something, despite all that adversity growing up.
All right.
Plus, I want to know where to get the best cheesesteak in Philadelphia.
Well, that one I can at least tell you right now. Max's, guys. Go to Max's.
Where's that
That's
at?
one of the best places. It's in the hood. I forget the exact location, but you can search it. It has two or three X's. I forget how many, but
Okay.
you can find it. Just know what you're ordering in advance. They're Philadelphia nice, which means they're very direct, a little bit
Oh,
rude.
it's like,
Yeah, hurry up. Or if you don't know what you want, get in the back of the line.
I'm just extra meat, extra cheese.
You'll be good to go. Most likely. Yeah, you'll be good to go.
All right. So, circling back to episode 1 of Life Unscripted, here we are. We do have a topic, and this topic I think is huge because what I have learned, in the past year, I've went through sobriety, and I'm like 330 something days. I'd have to pull the app up,
Nice.
but yeah,
Nice.
so we're about to a year. And I've got my head on my ass, and I've been more powerful, harnessing my energy towards the right things. It's cool when you just don't go get drunk, and then that shuts off everything.
Right.
Right. So I've been more efficient. I'm still working on the time management, stuff like that. But more people have came forward and trusted me with their businesses for marketing and advertisement. So what I used to have time for, I really don't have as much time for. So there's been instances where I've had to say no.
Right.
To some propositions, questions, whatnot. Power of saying no and assertiveness in self-care. I've known you personally for probably 7 years.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
6 years.
5
yeah.
at least. Yeah. 4 or 5.
Yeah. So I know we've both been in that situation.
Absolutely.
Whether it's professionally, personally, with family members. A time to say, a time where you had to say no.
Right.
Whether it's out of your own well-being.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you the first question.
Yeah.
What does it mean to assertively say no? And why do you feel that might be important for self-care?
It's the notion of you teach people how to treat you. So, but that essentially means you will say no to some things and yes to some things because of who you are and how you want to be respected. So for example, this is something that I did not do, and now I'm learning the benefits of why I should have done it for my own personal feeling of goodness. I don't have big issues with nicknames overall, especially for a person like myself with my name as it is. But I do value being respected. And I remember that organization I worked with, they shortened my name, gave me a nickname, which would typically be fine for me, but it seemed more of I'm just going to chop your name up.
They were just too lazy to learn how to say your name.
Yeah, which is different than someone saying, hey, this is my homie right here. I'm going to give him a special nickname because this is a person I care about and I respect and treat.
You can tell a difference.
You can tell a difference. Now, some people who that shortened my name, you could tell they meant hey, we brothers, That's fine. But for some people and many people, that was not the case. And it wasn't until very recently that I have the experience of talking amongst, I'm a Mason, so I was talking to some of my Masonic brothers, and, I hadn't been able to talk with them for a while, and they're like, hey, Adetokunbo, blah, 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 hey, Adetokunbo, yeah, blah, blah. I was like, it feels so good to have my name said appropriately and without any question. You know, it wasn't a question whether we will use your name or not. I was like, this is this man's name. Now, of course, in my experience, some people use excuse, oh, well, I don't know how to say that, this, that, and the other. It's like, no, respect is respect.
Right.
But I didn't understand that when I was going through the process of having people just kind of throw together a name for me. So I did not teach them how I want to be treated. And I felt now on the back end that man, in some ways, you kind of allowed yourself to be disrespected for a while. For some years here. So,
it just dawned on me. I haven't used that nickname since we work together.
Yeah. Boom. We don't use that. So I mean, so to kind of bring it back,
if I can pronounce your name, failing English class in 12th grade of high school, if I can learn how to pronounce your name, then anybody can pronounce your name.
It really is just about respect. But that's teaching people how you want to be treated. That is saying yes and no to things. And the boost of self-esteem and confidence to know like you can go into a place and people will respect you based on what you've requested is really important. So kind of going back to the main topic, in your life, you're going to be presented with various situations, and part of how you feel about yourself is going to be reflected as to where we say yes or no.
So allowing them to call you by your nickname, although it wasn't a nickname that you approved.
No.
Kind of.
And I had a friend who told me early on, was like, man, don't let them do that. I was like, man, I just, I was new. I was like, man, I just need a job. I don't need to cause waves right now. It's like, sometimes you do need to cause waves.
Right, absolutely.
That might cost you a job. And so, I mean, that's one of those difficult things you have to ask yourself. But I think as you build a firmer foundation in yourself and do some things to prepare yourself, like have your applications out there to multiple places, you can say, hey, this place isn't treating me with respect. I'm going to say no to that because ultimately, life, we don't get to stay here for a very long time.
Right.
And you got to enjoy those moments. And that self-care comes from saying,
you got to take care of yourself.
You got to take care of yourself.
Because no one else is going to do it before you.
No. You are, if you care about other people in your life, you are responsible for taking care of yourself. This is one different, we can go on a tangent with that, but that's one of the hardest lessons it's been for me to learn to see. Like, if you don't treat yourself well, even your best efforts, you're still going to, how you treat yourself is going to rub off on how you treat other people.
Oh, absolutely.
The worst of how you treat yourself is still going to show up on other people. And you may have no inclination for that at all.
Absolutely.
But it will come out because it's in you.
So as a caregiver, being a paramedic, I got to take care of people, right? Yeah. But and it goes up and down with my health and everything else. And I'm still in the trenches with my freaking diet after the holidays. But I can tell, too, when I'm not as eating as healthy and sleeping and everything else, you're kind of sluggish, and now you can't really take care of people effectively, or better than you would. So, that's so true. So,
or with sleep.
So situation with that, you had a hard time saying no to them calling you a different name. How could you deal with that, and overcome the guilt or the fear you might have? Like you were fearful of maybe getting in trouble.
Right.
I mean, fearful of that. But so how does one overcome that?
And well, I think it takes some. So this is the hardest part. It takes some time of sitting with oneself. I mean, that's really the hardest part.
It's like some reflection, kind of like
with some reflection, find out what you value. And the challenge with some of this is you may not know how important it is until after the fact.
Right.
So you always kind of have to be in reflection, which is hard for us to do. We live in a fast-paced world. There's lots of things, lots of distractions out there. But I think part of it is from reflecting on, like, who do I want to be? How do I want to treat myself? How do I want to care for myself? Right. And what am I willing to exchange for that?
Absolutely.
And is that really worth it? Sometimes it might seem like it's worth it. Other times not. I think there are, what I was saying earlier is just there's multiple situations where you can be resented wherever you say no or yes. And you have to understand that you are responsible for your care. And other people, even they have the best intentions, they may not be as conscientious of your care.
They might not understand what it's going to do to you.
Right. So here's an easy example. Used to teach martial arts. We would stay up. We would be at the martial arts school for hours and hours, and Sometimes because our teacher had more training for us. And no disrespect for them. They were trying to pass on an art. Man, I understand that. But I wish younger me would have said or understood, it's like, this is respecting your personal time at this point, because even though this is great material, you need to learn it, you need to sleep because your body needs it. Your ability to do your job needs it. Your ability to talk to your family members, to retain the information. You need that. They may be willing to provide you with this information, but you need to gracefully bow and say, I'm sorry, but I have to say no to this because I have to stay within my own boundaries. And I think understanding that the impact of not taking care of yourself and not respecting yourself by saying no when it's appropriate, I think that awareness that you build over time, that allows you to say no more gracefully. You can't say no to everything. I will say that as a caveat. I think you have to be open to saying yes to things that helps you grow. You have to ask yourself, is this going to help me to grow? But then balance that as like, how much is this going to take away from something that is my personal
health? To that time management.
Back to time management. I need to sleep. I need to eat. Hopefully, I need to eat well. I need to take some time for personal development. Like, these are things you have to ask yourself. And when people present things to you, there are multiple times you have to kind of quickly or say, give me a moment, let me think about that. But you have to make a decision. Does this balance with my personal needs? And it sounds very selfish, but it's self-focused, or self-interested, but not necessarily selfish. You still want to be willing because
you have to stay whole.
You have to stay whole. Yes.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, you have to stay whole. And the more you can understand and see how saying no to certain things helps you to stay whole, the easier it is. It may still be uncomfortable, but the easier it is to say no. Even if you say yes, and this, I don't like doing this, but if you say yes, and then you realize, like, you know what? This probably isn't good for me. Right. That's the worst.
You're absolutely right.
That middle, but you have to do it.
You do.
You have to do it.
An example I have, I used to have a group up here all the time that has a podcast, and it was fun. It was funny, everything else. And at the time, I didn't really have like a super busy schedule or anything. So I was able to record it and everything else. And then, and we were doing it almost weekly or bi-weekly, and I was great and stuff. And then they kind of wanted to branch out and go into the bars, local bars, and record it, and expected me to come do that. At the time, I was just started into my sobriety. Okay. So for one, I really didn't want to be around a lot of drunk people.
Right.
And I could be around them. They were really good friends of mine, so they could be as drunk as they wanted to be up here. I didn't care. That I still loved them, So, but to break equipment down, go sit up at a bar, have a lot of really sloppy drunk people around me that a lot of them I might not know.
Right.
Plus, I already got anxiety and all. I've already been popped with that, and I had to say no.
Sounds like it would be a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I feel bad. And, I feel like I lost 2 friendships out of the 4 or whatever, but I had to say no. Just because, like, at the end of the day, I would be spending 3-4 hours doing that around a bunch of drunk people that with my equipment that I have, they weren't paying. They weren't paying.
I got you.
They were giving me advice and they helped me, learn this whole process. So, but it's still at the end of the day, now we have clients and everything else, and that relies on this equipment.
Right.
Plus I probably would have lapsed.
And that's a problem for
if I'm in the bar every week around a bunch of drunk people, I'm probably going to lapse.
Right.
So that was the example of me saying no out of my own self-care.
Nice.
And then obviously that paid off.
Yeah.
I feel bad because I had to say no.
How have you worked with that, or even if you're still working through that? How have you?
Just, I mean, they know I love them.
Yeah.
You know, we obviously have a lot of different lifestyles, and that's fine too. Yeah. I love diversity, and I love having different shows up here, and you know, they were comedy, you know, and then a lot of what we're doing up here now is like community engagement, entrepreneurs, alumni, stuff like that. So I miss it, but you know, at the end of the day, it's got to be. It's your time, your focus. And now we have so many other projects going on, some that you're helping us with, that we have to contribute a lot more time to, a lot more focus. Me being sober is number one.
Absolutely. Because
every time, you know, I fell off the wagon, then I pretty much crashed the whole fucking business.
So if you're not good,
if I'm not sober and in good health, nothing else is
good.
Right.
I think that's one of the key things going back to the self-care is like, you have to say no so that you can keep your totality together. I think one of the things you pointed out is like, you know, I still love them, this, that, and the other. I think one of the things that helps with to say no is if you feel as though you must, lost myself there for a second. Communicate as much as you're comfortable with what's going on. It's just about a respect thing. You should be able to say, no, I can't do that. And they respect that. Now, sometimes it might come to a surprise. And if you feel so inclined, you can say, hey, I feel uneasy, or I really don't think this will work for me. Or you can provide further like, hey, this is going to really put me at risk. Now, if I explain that to a person, I might feel a little bit bad, but I feel as though I've given them as much information. They can't respect that. Either we're not understanding each other.
Absolutely.
Or it possibly, I mean, I'll listen to what they say, but maybe they're not respecting me, and it may not be out of disrespect. It may be, once again, that how they treat themselves is showing up.
Right. A lot of times it's their own insecurities.
Right.
That's just knocking. And then as you're growing and making changes and lifestyle changes and everything else, you're making them feel a little bad about their stuff.
Right.
You might not intentionally need to be doing that. But what I've learned, though, in this whole growing process is that you're going to lose people, but you're going to gain people.
Right. I think the example, a quick example, to your point, you know, for some people, they may get very frustrated. Like, no, you can only call me Adetokunbo. Now, like I said before, I'm fine with actual friend nicknames, but you know, some of the people I've engaged with,
if you're friends,
that's absolutely. So, you know, some people might get flustered if I say, no, I only want you to call me Adetokunbo. But what is that coming from? It could be they don't believe that they are capable of saying my name. Like they doubt their own their own intellect, which is not great. But as I've told almost any.
Now I'll fess up. I was one of those that when I heard your name or seen it on the thing, I'm like, where do I fucking start?
Where do I start?
And then I think you were like, just say it how it looks.
Yeah, start at A.
Adetokunbo Adeshile.
Boom, got it. Right. So I've been around long enough that I know my name for American English speakers is not going to be the first thing. Right. That's not going to be the first thing. They're like, oh, yeah. Now,
Adetokunbo should be Adeshile. I could see him saying Adeshile or Adeshile or something like that.
Yeah. And then it depends on the person. But I've experienced enough to know that people may be somewhat uncomfortable. But sometimes people will go into their own way of being. And then I have to. Then I have to additionally be able to say no.
Or just say fuck
off. Well, yeah. And maybe have enough grace to say, okay, this is not where you're at. But if I have the strength, that's the other thing. You got to go back to, this is about me. It's like, I have to say, no, that's not acceptable. And also with the understanding, like, I'm going to have grace here because this person is uncomfortable. But if this person is getting angry, I still have to say grace. Like, this is their own ego getting in the way.
Absolutely.
This is their own ego. Now, there's not much ego. Some people could say, well, you know, you're making people say this long name, blah, 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 because some people will say that. I still think that comes from their own personal fear.
It is, because it's like Adetokunbo. I mean, anything that you want to learn, you can learn.
Right.
So if they're respectful enough to learn your name, they're going to learn your fucking name.
They're going to learn it. Right.
Right.
And, I remember people I've known who have names that are English, but how they're written and how they're pronounced are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
But people would get those names perfectly. It's like, this is interesting.
Right.
What's the difference here?
I'm black.
Well, for some people.
Well, for some people, and you come here to Indiana, that might be true.
Some people that might be true, and God bless them, and hopefully they grow and develop.
They can let their own demons out their doors.
Yep. And so saying no, I think is very, very important to your self-care. I mean, I just have so many experiences in which I can recognize people when I should have said no.
Do you know of a certain example you could share?
A certain example?
And don't worry, they're probably not going to see this. Like, we'll probably get 1 or 2 viewers.
Well, I mean,
give me a certain example where you did say no, and then the benefits that came from that. Do you have one in mind?
I think I have a. So, yes, I do have one. I'm not trying to go too heavy hitter. I'm trying to find something a little bit lighter.
Right. It's all right.
Let me think about this here. I have. Man, you got me really on the spot here,
I know. I just sent you these questions like 10 minutes ago.
He got me on there because it is a question in my brain of how much information am I comfortable with sharing right now? Because there are micro things that say no, like I won't go to this meeting, right? But then there are macro,
life-changing.
There are life-changing things. So for me, so one of the things that I know I've said no to is I left an organization that I thought I was not being treated well at. And that is huge for a person like me. I'm a millennial, technically. I'm an elder millennial, I suppose.
How old are you?
38.
Dang.
38 now?
Dang.
Yeah, just had a birthday. Yeah, 38.
Same. I'm 38.
Heck yeah, brother. Heck yeah.
So I knew I was, though.
Huh?
I thought you were going to have to phone a friend.
I thought it was. For the last year prior, I thought it was 38. And they was like, no, bro, you still 37. I'm
like, be like, how old am I?
What's my address? But yes.
Dang.
Hey, it's true. Anyways, moving on.
All right.
But for me, I'm a millennial, and our generation has been being poo-pooed on for at least a decade or more about being entitled or lazy.
And you know who does it? You know who
the people who have power?
The people who fucking raised us.
Yep.
It's the people who raised us that are dissing on us.
Yep.
It's like, you raised us, motherfuckers.
Yep. Or the generation or their parents. And it's like, well, you didn't help them. Like, come on. You guys create the environment and the conditions, but we're I can get onto the whole millennial thing quite a bit. So I reject the idea of millennials being lazy, by the way, because
leaving a fucked up workplace is where
leaving
you're at.
A workplace. Yeah. So the reason I was bringing up the millennial piece is only simply that I like the idea of having a job.
Right.
I graduated into a recession, so people who have very extensive degrees are baristas. Nothing wrong with being a barista. Love my baristas.
No.
Hey, there we go. But there are very capable people who could not get a job.
Right. Well, a barista is not going to pay that college tuition.
College tuition, right? So, I mean, that was just the market situation there. So for me, having a job that grants retirement, all those things, I mean, it's huge. I would like to have a family at some point, given that the time frame that I came in, having enough funds to like buy a house, start a family, all that stuff was really hard for our generation. At least if you're coming from a big city or lived in a big city, unless you just went straightly to be a lawyer or straightly to be a doctor. Unless you've done that or found your unique way, for a lot of us, it's been a challenge. So for me to recognize like, this treatment is not good for my health. And it is changing my character slowly but surely. I can't accept that. I have to say no to that. So that was extremely hard for me to do. To say no to a guaranteed retirement and guaranteed income. That for a person who their whole life is like, all I want to do is work and help people. Right. To say no.
But here's the thing.
It's huge.
I was in that boat, and to say no to all of that shit. And my whole reason being is with the retirement, I wouldn't have been alive.
Right.
Because I let everything define me. And, by going that route of alcohol, on top of the psych meds, on top of everything. Yeah. But I said no to a steady job with the retirement. And that's why I told people, I'm like, I tried to fucking shoot myself in my front yard. So if I was, what would that retirement mean to me? I'd be dead.
It literally means nothing.
I'd be dead. So that's the whole benefit in saying no sometime.
Yeah. I mean, yes, saying no sometimes it can literally save your life. Right. Saying no can save your life. I mean, for me, I was like, my character might die here. And not that I would do anything wrong, but like the foundational elements of who I was and my beliefs about certain behaviors could be gone. And who's to say that more wouldn't be lost in the things that I want to achieve? What kind of parent would I be if I hated my life?
Right. Alcohol, you might take up some other substances.
Right.
Shit, and then
my behavior, my attitude, like not just being tired, but like what person would I be if I stayed in the culture that I was not valued and respected in?
Absolutely. So that's a really good example.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a time where I said no, and that was really, really scary. Really scary. I mean,
what we've both learned is all that good shit happens in those scary moments. So I feel like true. The more uncomfortable, like I'm uncomfortable as fuck doing this podcast, but like I told you, it's something I got to do. I have to do this. It will help me learn to talk better, relationship building, meeting people, meeting more people. Obviously the ACA is going to bring some exotics up here. I mean, so that's why I just call it Life Unscripted, is because we're going to sit here and chop it up. Sometimes it'll be topics like today, and then some days it's going to be off the rails with some hawks and some owls.
Yeah. Hey.
I visited the other day. There was some horses, turtles.
Oh, nice.
There's a rooster running around. It was kind of like chasing me.
Yeah.
I'm like, turn around, chase it back to see if it would stop. And then what I learned while I was out there at the ACA is that in all the movies, when the eagle's flying, and it makes that crazy sound, that's not the eagle. That's the sound of a hawk.
That's hilarious.
Because it has a more aggressive sound.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So that's a fun fact I learned.
That's interesting.
We'll have the hawk in here and make
nice.
They're going to bring them up here.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that. Was it Saturday Night Live, or was it what show was it where they would bring the exotics in?
I don't think it was. I don't know. We had to search.
It was wild, but
we had to search.
Yeah. So
search. But I applaud you. So to kind of take a step back, I applaud you for having the courage to come and talk about things or do things that are uncomfortable. So that's, once again, we're talking about caveats. Sometimes you have to say yes. A lot of saying no so that you can say yes to the things that are good for you.
That help you grow.
That can help you grow.
Right.
Help you grow, help you stay whole. So you said no to whatever things so that you could say yes today.
The bigger things.
The bigger things. Because you do this, or even just doing this today, who knows what that will unlock for you.
We'll get one like, and I'll tell you what, I love them.
There we go.
I love that one person that likes this.
There we go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about vanity metrics, how many likes and shares and I don't give a fuck. It's that we're going to sit here and make some good content, and this is therapeutic for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? If it helps one person out there, especially with today's topic, if it helped one person realize that sometimes you have to say no for your own health and well-being, well, cool. Like,
right.
Tell us about it. Tell us your story.
Please do. Please do. And note, like I've talked a little bit about my story in leaving place. I'm not particularly comfortable with that. I actually don't like talking about places I've worked at all, period. Just because, future employment options, this, that, and the other, and I still have my own ego issues to deal with. But I will add.
We're getting through that, though.
Yeah, we're getting through that. And I'll add, had I not made the decisions, I don't know how well my health would be.
You'd be in a worse spot.
I'll be a worse spot. And I would have achieved some of the things that I've achieved. Like we were saying, Kevin, I've written quite a few books since then. And that's not something I knew I could necessarily do.
I'm
like I knew I could do it, but like I got to do it.
Right.
And when if I can make it 65 or 70, 80 years old, whatever happens of my writing life is like, I know I did that.
Absolutely.
I know, here's the thing. I know that I left a place because I thought better of myself.
For your own health and well-being.
Yep. If I had a kid, guess what? I now have a true real life story to tell them. Like, I'm not just telling you to do what's best for you. I have done it. I can speak from a place of a person who's done it. I can talk and connect to some of the fears and concerns or worries that they might have. You can't pay me to have that experience. That's just experience I have now. And that's something that hopefully, as this podcast hopefully will, help other people in life.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on episode 1.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Love you, bro.
Life Unscripted with Kevin Shook.